Hey everyone, we are here with Seamus from My Fictions. If you don't know them, you should fucking check them out. They are a fantastic band, not a new band, out of Boston. They're kind of mixed state. The vocalist, right, is in New York, and then the
Mhm.
rest of you guys are like in Boston.
Mhm. Yep.
They have a new album coming out. Touch of Glass comes out Friday. Check it out. It is a fantastic piece of work. I can't wait. I told you, I'm a vinyl guy, so I can't wait to have the whole experience, like put on my headphones and like sit there like a kid.
Yeah, the whole top to bottom thing,
Yeah.
it makes it better, right? Having a artwork that you can look at and a physical record and sitting there with it. Yeah, I'm a big believer in doing that. So
Yes.
hell yeah, man.
Yeah,
Thanks
it's
for
all encompassing. Well, thanks for joining me. I greatly appreciate it. This is I do this because I'm a I'm a music nerd. I just love music. And hopefully I can push some more people towards anyone that I interview, really. Um, I'll tell. So I read a little bit today, and I thought this was pretty interesting because one of the questions I always have is like, how long was like the writing process on the album? And this one took you guys like about 2 years.
I'd say maybe a little bit less than 2 years. I feel like we were at one point we were in a pretty solid rhythm of weekly syncing up. And Tyler, our guitar player, I said this before, is like he's like the kind of like the mastermind behind all of our songs, or at least the riff. So he'll usually come to my house when we are recording this record or writing this record, and he'd have an idea, or he would send us like a demo the day or a couple days before. And it was just a really organic process of us getting these riffs together, all meeting up. Me and Mike, our bass player, kind of adding our own personal flavor to the songs, fleshing them out in person. That was really the flow, which I guess is pretty normal for most bands that sound like us, But
Yeah.
that was our rhythm for this record. Was the ideas were kind of started with Tyler, and then we all come together, jam everything out at this part, at that part, and get a product that we're super happy with, the final version that we're super psyched on. And then we go and record, and Brian adds his vocals. It's the very last thing we do, is Brian coming in, and he's usually working on lyrics throughout the process of us recording demos. And the first time, at least for me, the first time I hear any vocals is usually when we're in the studio when Brian starts tracking.
Right
So it's
on.
a pleasant surprise to hear what he's got, ready to go to go on top of what we've already come up with.
Yeah. Well, it flows really well together. And one of the things that I always look for with music, whether it be a song or an album, I look for it to fill like certain things. Obviously, I want a good solid like rhythm section, and I want some guitars that draw you in, and I want vocals that make you feel, right? And you guys encompass everything, and also each song leaves you wanting more. Like I can't turn it off. You know what I mean? Um,
Yeah. That I
that's
mean that's yeah, that's definitely the way that we approach it, and looking at the album as a whole too, as like a cohesive piece of music that you can listen to from beginning to end, and kind of feel some sort of linear progression to the music, like you're in the record, and
yeah,
that's always been that's always been something that I feel like we're mindful of, creating like a body of work that fits, where all the songs kind of fit cohesively and are a representation of where we are artistically at that point in time.
yeah. It's you know I, I'll say this a couple of times through this whole time, and I just think it is as a whole a fantastic piece of art, and um it's more common in the underground world and not as common in the more popular world, right? I feel like the pop world feels focuses more on single song, what single can we get on the radio or to, get 10 million views or whatever, and we have a solid piece of art that someone can listen to from start to finish. And there's never a point, especially with Touch of Glass, that I felt like, oh, I could listen to this later. Like I was like, no, I don't want to turn this off. Like when we get done here, I'm gonna put it back on and listen again because it's I hope more people feel like that because it is such a good fucking album.
Well, that's such a huge compliment that we put our music in a way that somebody can listen to it, want more, and can get lost in the record, so to say. Like that's a huge compliment because even going back to my favorite records, they capture that same, that same sense.
Yeah.
Like Crack the Sky from Mastodon is one of my favorite
What
records
a
ever.
great album.
That's a record, and that's the first one that comes to mind when I think of that idea of getting lost in the record, and you're kind of on a journey from beginning to end. And it's way better if you just listen to the whole thing,
Yeah.
even though, Oblivion is my favorite song on the record. And sometimes I just put that on. I more times than not will want to listen to the entire record front to back instead of just cherry picking individual
Yeah.
singles. So it's
Yeah.
cool. It's a great compliment, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah. It's just fantastic. There's a lot of albums like that though, and I think for me, through my whole life, I've always been the guy that like I'll wake up and like, oh, I want to listen to this band today. And I pick an album and I put that album on and I start from start to finish. Like
Mhm.
I'm not gonna skip a song. I just want to hear this whole thing. Like Crack the Sky is a really good,
Mhm.
representation of that. Metallica, Master of Puppets, Ride the Lightning,
Yeah.
of course, a lot of those old like thrash bands, um, that they capture that so well. And I feel like you guys, as a whole, grab the complexities of what a band together can do and make, just good, solid, like honestly, it makes you want to get in the pit and just fucking go wild.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, we definitely want people doing that. So
for
mission.
sure. So what is your show schedule like?
Pretty light right now. We don't have much on the books for the rest of this year. Um, we definitely hit the road way more aggressively earlier on in our career. We were
Yeah.
playing way more shows, but as we've kind of grown up a little bit, it's tough to get out for for a 6 week stretch or a four or even like anything longer than a weekend is tough. But right now we're kind of we'll do some shows around the next 6 months. We'll definitely get out there, but we don't have any proper touring on the books for the rest of this year.
Sure. I know a lot of bands, of course, I'm older, so I absolutely get it. Families, kids, bills, responsibilities. You can't just, live in a van forever.
I did all of those things actually. Lived in a van, job, family, kids. So now having done all of it, I'm like, I really loved the time that I had the freedom and the flexibility to hit the road as much as I did. Um, but yeah, it's just and you know what? The band and our show schedule, it's like it's kind of all matured with us as the members of the band too, in a way where it's
Yeah,
like we're just not motivated to really go at it like that anymore either.
sure.
Like they're way more motivated now to just write, get in a room together and create awesome music. And we my vision for it has always been like I want to put out as much music as we possibly can because that's where I feel the most creatively fulfilled as my fictions is
Yeah,
when we're writing music together and we're recording together and we're in that creative that creative zone together is when I feel the best about our band. Not to say that I don't love getting out there and playing, but we only have a limited amount of time with what we can actually allocate to my fictions. And I just feel like writing music and releasing music is the most it's definitely
productive.
the most productive and the most rewarding use of our time at this
Yeah.
point.
I could see that. I could absolutely see that. I am, of course, I love a good live show. I
Me too.
I go to more shows than I care to admit. So I guess I'm just gonna have to really pay attention to your schedule and maybe take a trip to Boston to catch you guys.
Where are you based out of?
I live in Louisville, KY.
Oh, okay. Oh, I was just out there the other weekend, actually.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I'm
No, it's
just
great.
I know
I
I love it here.
we the Diamond Ballroom, right? Is that in Louisville? No, no, there's another place in Louisville that we played a bunch of times. But
So
and
we used to have a place called Diamonds, but it abruptly like shut down.
yeah,
Um, I'm trying to think like, yeah, I don't know. What years you guys like
probably like
super active? 12.
2012, 2000 to 2016, 17. I
Okay,
remember being Diamond something, so maybe that was the place. But yeah, I don't know if we're gonna have anything scheduled in that area in the upcoming future. I feel like more than likely we'll probably just do some shows around Northeast,
sure.
in the next year or so.
Oh, I'm not afraid to travel. Let me be
Good.
clear on that. I will a matter of fact, last time I was in Boston was we we went to Worcester for the Shadows Fall reunion in 21.
Oh, I was there.
Oh,
I was
did
there
you
too.
did you get COVID from that too?
Everybody got COVID from that show.
Yeah. I was
Everybody, all the
like,
bands too.
yeah, dude, not Shadows Fall. Those guys didn't get it.
Ah, bastards.
I
Yeah,
know.
I feel like after, yeah, because that was like what? That was like winter 2022,
Yeah, it was December. No, December of 21.
21. Yeah, so that was like pretty early on coming out of COVID, where it was like one of the bigger shows that I had been to. And I just remember everybody after, like even texting some of the guys in the bands, and like everybody got it from that show. It was like a
Yeah.
super spreader event.
Yeah, we blamed Ja Rule for it because we flew in through we connected in LaGuardia and ran into Ja Rule. So I like got a picture with him
And
and
he got COVID.
yeah, like so we go to the show, we're flying home and I'm like, oh, I got allergies. That's weird. Get home and I'm sick as a dog. And my buddy texts me, that damn Ja Rule gave us COVID.
Yeah, you could probably blame him for it. That's fair.
Yeah, it was such a good show though. I actually there was what four bands on that bill
Yeah.
and Within the Ruins played that show and I just interviewed one of those dudes and I was like we were talking I was like oh that show he goes oh we played that and I was like holy shit you did like I totally forgot
Yeah. Yeah.
um
Yeah,
but
man. It was good. That was, like I said, that was one of the first shows back. I feel like everybody was still like getting acclimated to not, to being out at a show, and it just so happens that everybody got COVID.
everyone yeah like oh 2000 people sold out like everyone got COVID shit whatever it was a good time I think we all had a good time um for you guys like throughout the whole career with My Fictions, is there a band that you guys played with where you were like, man, I never thought we would play with this band, and that was so freaking awesome?
For my fictions, we played, I mean, we've played with a bunch of great bands over the years, but because we never did that much extensive touring or big festivals, nothing comes to mind as of like right now for bands that right now I would be like, oh shit, I can't believe we're playing with them. But I feel like uh, we did a show with Circle Takes the Square, and I remember us all being super into them around that time. So that was a pretty big one for us. Um, like I said, in our career for how many years we've been at it,
Yeah.
we haven't done that much touring. So yeah, nothing that really comes to mind now.
Well, the cool thing about being in a band, I mean, you guys have been a band for what, 14, 15 years
Yeah,
now,
quite some time.
so you you don't have to tour to hit those like be like, oh shit, we're playing a show with this band. That's super cool, you
Right.
know?
Yeah. I mean, we did shows with at the time we played with yeah, just a lot of I'm thinking now, a lot of it was bands that were kind of like in our scene at the time. You
Yeah,
know, we did shows with Pianos Become the Teeth, with Defeater, with Touche Amore, kind of like all the bands that were in that crop of artists when we were
that
way
kind
more
of, yeah,
active. Yeah, when we were way more active in like 2010, 2011, 2012. But yeah, we never really, because we took a hiatus around 2014, all of our shows and touring, like we didn't really, we didn't do anything for quite a few years.
yeah,
Uh, but yeah, we definitely played with quite a few great,
yeah,
friends. And that's the other thing, is like even like our friends bands back in the day, like we would play, it's a great local band, Aviator, Astronomer, like just bands that we would do like almost every weekend. It felt like we were playing shows together. And that was probably equally as cool back then.
hell yeah. I think it's almost better to play shows with your friends than it is to play with like a band that's huge where, it's kind of cool to play with the bigger bands because you have a little bit of like, holy shit, we're here, right? But then when you're playing with your friends, it's like, hell yeah, dude, we get to party every weekend and just have a good time.
And sometimes those shows with the bands that were in our scene that we were playing with every single weekend probably did more for our audience and to actually like grow, and to play in front of new people than than some of these bigger shows where, the audience is just not there for you at all. And you might not
Yeah.
retain as many fans, as really investing in playing and like developing your local scene, which I feel like we did a lot of when we were a much more active band, is it was like kind of all the crop of bands were coming up together and playing together very frequently.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good when you've got like a vibrant scene like that, when the bands are coming together and you're playing a lot of shows and able to, like, I don't know, piggyback a little bit off of each other's fans and, get people interested in them and their people interested in you. It's, I've watched a lot of development here. So I've been here for roughly like 25 years, and to watch the development of the scene here has been fantastic. Of course there's still shows where you go and you're like, oh, there's 10 people,
Mm,
great. But a lot more so now. There's a lot more people at the shows. I mean, we were at a show of essentially all brand new bands Saturday, and I mean the place was 50% capacity, so like,
yeah.
there's no complaints there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know there's a big fest in Louisville, big hardcore fest, and it just having
Yeah.
the constant, like, even the small weekend shows, it all accumulates to a vibrant scene, and that's really important. Like the consistency of it and having shows every weekend, you get more bands, you get more kids that are going out, and before you know it, there's kind of, like I said, there's a vibrant scene,
Yeah.
people to come up in, which is great.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, you're talking about LDBBL.
LDB Fest.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's like, I was trying to think of like the shirt was like LDBBB or something like that. I'm like,
yeah.
okay, but yeah, like this year I think Hatebreed and Obituary played, which was super
Yep.
cool.
Yep.
Uh yeah. We used to have Crazy Fest.
I remember Crazy Fest. Um, that was like less like heavy bands, right? It was more,
No,
um, oh, maybe
it
I'm
was
mistaking them.
it was all hardcore.
Oh, okay. What year
Yeah.
was?
Oh, that was probably mid to late 2000s.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, I definitely remember seeing that festival, like flyers kicking around a little bit
Yeah.
before my time, but I remember that.
Yeah, I was just talking about that with a buddy of mine last week or the week before. I don't know, like I think one of the dudes from Ignite Records, maybe, he threw it with a partner,
Hmm.
and I don't know, I remember like everyone's like, "Oh my God, Crazy Fest, we're gonna go crazy," and we did. It was fun.
Yeah, maybe it's time to bring it back.
Yeah, or I mean, LDB is like, I feel like that's kind of taken its place.
It sounds like that's probably what the torch was passed on to that.
Yeah. Yeah. They like it, I think it sold out again this year, which is like, dude, that's fantastic to have any festival that can multiple day festival like sell capacity is
It's huge.
nuts. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and it, you know, the cool thing about it is they've got a lot of like lesser known bands, and then of course they've got bigger bands, Hatebreed, Obituary, etc. But you know, to see the crowd get into a lot of those lesser known bands is really, really
Yeah.
fantastic.
It's
So
definitely important, I feel like, to have a diverse bill, and probably all has a like a center line of aggressive music, but like you said, Obituary and Hatebreed, those two bands are not much alike, I feel like,
no,
but it's cool that there's a cross bill like that.
for sure. Yeah, it's cool because, you know, fans who are into the death metal of Obituary also get into, you know, Hatebreed. I mean, I love both those bands,
Me too.
you know, to go to a show and have both those bands on the bill. I'm like, fuck yeah, this is cool, you
Hell
know.
yeah.
A diverse bill is always is super nice because it also, especially when you're there like all day, you don't get bored with like the same, you know, the same like chug chug or whatever.
Yeah,
Um, it it kind of mixes up a little bit, and you're like, oh shit, yeah, keeps it fresh.
absolutely. I agree with you.
So for you, like early on, who were some of the artists that inspired you to get into playing music?
I would say early on, probably a lot of like pop punk, Blink 182, um, uh, Blink 182, The Descendants, like a lot of like earlier punk rock stuff was like the first thing that kind of caught my attention. No Effects, probably not The Descendants until a little bit later, but No Effects, Blink 182, stuff like that. That was really my entry point to becoming interested with music as something beyond just like something that's on in the background, like really latching on to listening to the songs on a deeper level. And then from there, I was more exposed to heavier stuff like Metallica, probably more like mainstream hard rock stuff of like the early 2000s. But like Metallica was a big one where, I remember that being Metallica and System of a Down were two bands that I heard that blew my mind. And then from there, you go down the rabbit hole of alternative music and underground, getting into uh I think like the first like Converge is a huge one that I kind of discovered early on, and
Oh yeah.
they're still one of my favorite bands, but they were one of the more aggressive chaotic bands that I discovered at a young age, and it absolutely just blew my mind.
Yeah. Yeah, it, you know, it's funny because like for me growing up, I listened to like my first concert was Michael Jackson on the Thriller tour, you know, and I don't remember the show, but I remember being absolutely like awed with what the environment was. So like going from that and then into heavier music and then to find those crazy chaotic bands was like, what's this? Like,
Yeah, it's a different world.
yeah, they'll
It's a
never play it on the radio, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And you kind of have to either be exposed to it from somebody else that's way cooler than you that already knows, and then it's like your friend like gives you the CD and it completely changes your life. Like that's pretty much how that worked for me with getting into heavy music. Someone just showed me a band and I heard somebody screaming, on a song for the first time. I was like, what the hell is this? And that led me to getting, way down the rabbit hole of, each weird subgenre and, doom metal and verse thrash and grindcore. And it's like that just one band that somebody showed me just completely opened the doors to this whole world of underground um, music.
Yeah. Well, and that, you know, I think that's the beauty of like being surrounded by uh like-minded people, right? People who really get into, you know, just music as a whole, because you're gonna know something that they're not, and they're gonna know stuff that you're not. And to be able to like crisscross that and like, hey, check this out. Oh no, check this out. Like, oh shit, we we had a conversation Saturday. We were at a show and there was like one of my buddies says, "Oh, I wish there was a band that does this." And I was like, "Hold on." I yelled to another buddy. It was like, "Hey, what's a band that does this?" He goes, "Oh, this band out of like Nashville." Dude's like, "Holy shit, that's really a thing?" Like, yeah, that's really a thing.
And then it becomes your responsibility to spread the gospel.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's to have those to be able to have those conversations where everyone is sharing all that music is that honestly that's what keeps the underground scene going, whether a
Mhm.
band is out there playing 100 shows or 2 shows a year, right? As long
Mhm.
as they're putting music out, that's that's the key there. It's like fuck, man.
Consistency,
Yeah,
dedication to the art, and that's really because obviously there's no money in music, and a lot of that super underground music like my fictions, and that's obviously not why we do it,
right.
but we're incredibly passionate, I feel like, of continuing to just persist and keep going and keep trying to be better at what we do, but also like I look at it like trying to capture the moment in our collective, right? And our collective being our band, us as friends, like these records and releases kind of serve as like a time capsule for what we were all into and where our heads were at this moment in time. And that's why it's my goal to continue putting out as much music as we possibly can because I want to continue doing that, even if the amount of people that are listening, even if it stays flat, or if there's more people on one record and less people on the other. I just want to continue looking at it as an art project that evolves alongside us that we can use to express ourselves at that point in time.
Hell yeah. But that's where the authenticity comes in, right? Because you're doing it because it's something you're driven to do and not to go out there and sell a million records and be all over the radio. It's like, fuck no, I just want to create and have fun, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, and if we were trying to do that, it definitely wouldn't be with a band that sounds like my fictions.
Okay.
No hate to anybody that is trying to do that. That's awesome, but like, you know, uh, just in terms of what we're doing, I feel like it has always been very authentic to what we like and what our tastes are, and our
Yeah.
tastes have always been like even in the scope of heavy music, it's always been like kind of left of center heavy bands that are even more kind of niche, so yeah, and that's kind of never stopped us for just like from just going after the sound that we envision, in our head. So
Yeah, well, it shouldn't stop you, and I think that's why I've always been drawn more towards like underground music. Is the music is in my mind it comes off as a lot more genuine and authentic. It's people who are creating music that they want to listen to and they want to play regardless of what pop culture says,
Mhm.
and it's funny to watch the underground trend because there's always something a little bit different and it's always on the cutting edge,
Mhm.
like
Absolutely.
like fuck. How,
Yeah.
look at like Nirvana going from Bleach to Nevermind. A lot of people love Bleach, but it didn't sell real good. But then Nevermind came out and everyone's like, I love Nirvana. I've loved them forever. It's like, like cool, but
There's authenticity that you can take away from all forms of art, and that is a consistency across all different genres, and why, personally my tastes in music also go beyond like heavier, heavier metal or whatever you want to call it. It is that spark of authenticity and knowing you can kind of sense that somebody is trying to get something out, right?
yeah.
And that comes across in all different forms of music. But no, you make a good point. That's what we as people attach ourselves to as fans, right? We're looking for that human connection through art, and yeah, there's a lot of that in heavy underground metal.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and that's exactly what draws people, I think, to any band is they're looking for that connection and something within that sparks that connection. And they're like, "Oh man, like I'm not a Taylor Swift fan, but I absolutely appreciate what she does and her fans are fucking rabid, dude."
Mhm. Oh
Like,
yeah, yeah, absolutely. They're yeah, and even if it's not your jam, that's obvious that, a mass amount of people are connecting with her
Yeah.
to some degree that's deeper than just turning a song on the radio and saying this is cool. Like they're really kind of one with the artist, I feel like, which is cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Like they do the whole Rocky Horror Picture, like we're gonna dress up and shit. Like, all
I back
right.
I back it.
Yeah. Cool. Like go have a good time. I'll never shit on an artist for, for doing whatever they want to do and having fans that are rabid. Like it might
Me,
not be my jam, but fuck, have a good time,
yeah, I feel the same way.
you know? My daughter, her first concert was Justin Bieber, and she's like, I don't really want to tell people. Like, who gives a fuck? You liked
If
it.
that's all that matters. Did you
Yeah.
did you go, did you go with
I
her?
didn't. Nah, my wife took her. I at the time I had a crazy schedule at work. I would have like if she wants me to go to a concert, I'm like, all right, let's go. I don't care. Like,
That could have been the thing that sparks interest to more, to the rabbit hole, right?
yeah,
So of everything else, like you never know. Like for you, like you said, it was like the Michael Jackson show. That could be, even though, Justin Bieber is a huge pop star, that could open up a whole world of, live music and art. And that's just the entrance point.
for sure. So you mentioned that you want to keep creating, and I know the new album comes out Friday. Are you guys looking at or have you started writing for the next thing?
We're going to start soon. I think maybe in the next couple of weeks. I was actually talking to the guys earlier, and we were trying to figure out a time that we can all link up. And I think our guitar player might have some riffs, um, in the chamber ready to go. So yeah, I think we'll be working on new music very soon.
That's cool. That's super cool. It's exciting for me, especially with you guys being so new to me. I'm like, oh, I can't wait to get the vinyl, but I can't wait to hear what else comes from you guys because um it's sparked something, the music itself is really exciting. I connected with it. Like Brian's vocals, the way he fucking screams, I'm like, oh, that
You feel it.
yeah. Yeah, it makes me feel really good. So I'm like, that's cool as shit.
Yeah. We'll definitely be working on new music soon. I mean, I think the good thing about the way that I feel like we kind of like operate as a band is that we're not beholden to any schedule. The label that's putting this out is great friends of ours, and it's like we're if we feel like writing a new record, we're gonna write a new record. We're gonna do an EP. Maybe we'll do a split with another band. Like, it's very freeing to have zero constraints
Yeah.
and by a record cycle or a touring schedule. And again, like no, not to like diss any bands that do operate by those parameters, because I get, especially when you have other people that are invested in your art, like, there is a way to do it to optimize, just the reach. But where we really don't have that many people invested in us, and we don't have to do it, we're kind of just like I said, we're eager to get back into it, even though we are putting a record out this week. Like,
Yeah.
fuck it, we're just gonna start working on the next one next week,
Yeah. Well, and that's again, that's a cool thing about I think about underground is there's not more times than not with the minor labels, right? The independent labels, they don't care. Like you put out what you want to put out. We're gonna we're gonna back you because we believe in the product that you're putting out.
Mm.
Like so every album is fresh. It feels fresh and inspired versus getting on some of those, larger independents or even the major labels where it's, we expect it. Cool, your record came out this day. You've got
Years of touring.
yeah, and we expect another record out in a year. And you're like, what the
Yeah.
what the fuck is going on here?
Yeah, I mean, I get it, especially when there's financial buy-in from a label, and you have more people dependent, not dependent, but more people just bought in to the
Yeah,
success of something. You know, that's just, that I understand the reasoning for being more regimented, in a way that bands operate in that sense. But with us not being at that point, it's like we may as well just do. whatever works for our schedule and like, you know, or our creative schedule, you know, like
Yeah.
what we feel like doing. And it's like historically, those have always been my favorite bands that just feel like they're always working on the next record, you know. Even if it's a band that tours all the time, like Meshuggah is an example of that. I feel like they
Yeah.
always have another record like in the chamber ready to go, and it's like the band just never stops. And I feel like, you know, I now look at bands like the combined amount of their output as creatives means something to me as a fan, you know, and I look at a band like Converge that has had so many records, you know, and has just been consistently doing it for so long. And I look at that like that bulk of, you know, creative output, and I respect it so much as a
Yeah.
fan. And my goal is to get there at some point with a musical project where people can look at us like that.
Hell yeah. Well, and that's, that's the beauty of being creative, right? Especially like you guys had your hiatus and it sounds like you're at a point where it's like you're reinvigorated and like, oh shit, let's keep creating. Let's put it out, especially while the fire's lit, let's really, you know, put
Look,
something out that's just gonna keep going.
yeah.
Um, so, that's fucking from a fan perspective, that's pretty amazing. Um, Now when you guys went on hiatus, like how you guys went on about 14 and started writing again in 22, or was there some time in there where you played?
So we did a couple shows sprinkled in, like just a couple local shows. But our last record came out, Stranger Songs came out in 2014,
Yeah.
and yeah, we did some shows, did some touring. Went away, I believe, the same year. But didn't announce anything. We just kind of decided that we wanted to put it on pause for a minute, and then we did an EP in 2021 that we kind of came together over the course of COVID. Not that that was like the catalyst of us getting back to it, but I think just the fact that we were feeling like, you know, like we had to get out and do something. The vehicle for us to do it was through our band.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is like we still like us as members of the band were friends like the entire time. Like I'd see everybody almost every single weekend. Like we were still, you know, very close as people. We just I don't think we had the desire to do my fictions. Uh, and I was playing in other bands and touring with a bunch of different projects at the time, and everybody was kind of doing their own, you know, their own thing. So yeah, that was kind of the timeline from when we decided we were going to go on hiatus through Time Immemorial, which is our EP that we came out with in 2021, leading us up to now the full length.
Yeah, that's cool. That's sometimes you need that, right? Like,
Yeah, I think we just needed a break because we had been playing together for so long before that. I mean, we had been a band in some form. We had been a band playing together with me since 2008, um, and Tyler and Brian since probably 2005, 2006, I believe. So everybody had been playing music together for so long that I think we all wanted some time to breathe, you know, and to
yeah.
let my fictions just cool for a minute and pick it back up when we felt inspired to do so.
So since like 2014 until right the EP or even you know the latest album, is there as a whole for the band, are you guys feeling um different now than you did then, or
Oh yeah, absolutely. Way different. I feel like our goals have changed. I feel like we were motivated to tour, but I think we were more motivated we're more motivated now to just make the music that we're comfortable making or we're inspired making. And
yeah.
sometimes that's really heavy. You know, sometimes that's a bit more ethereal, you know, jammier. And sometimes it's neither. It's something completely different that we've never done before. I feel like in 2014, we were probably a little more regimented in what we would do as a band, and we had way more parameters around what we thought was cool. because we were a lot younger, obviously, and we were
Sure.
probably more motivated to um to probably have a bit more appeal, and we were younger and hungrier. So I feel like we were hungrier to make it. Whatever making it means to a band that sounds like My Fictions. We were more eager to just expand our audience, and I feel like that made us question what we were doing way more. Where we're like, well, should we really play these sort of shows, or make music that sounds like this, or put music out on this type of label, where now it's not as calculated. I feel like it's more probably a bit more organic now in terms of how we position ourselves as a band.
That's cool. So it probably feels a lot better as a whole to be more organic and not as calculated. And when you're like, okay, this is like we have to stay this line. It honestly, like an outside perspective, is it looks like it would feel kind of boring to do the same thing.
Yeah, it gets boring to say no to things because they don't fit your preconceived notion of what your band is. Where that's really, I feel like we say no for other reasons now. We say no just because it's like, it's either scheduling conflicts, or it's like everybody has a limited amount of time to contribute to the band, so we have to be more decisive with
Yeah.
what we choose to do. But that's different than not doing it because it just doesn't fit our vibe. I feel like that's kind of a different reasons fundamentally. So yeah, that's definitely the main difference between how we were operating, back then versus where our heads are at right now. And it is pretty liberating to be on the other side of that and to just be way more open to whatever comes our way.
Yeah, that's cool. It for my life right now has kind of been all about like the death of the ego. And it feels like as a band, you guys took that hiatus and that was kind of like, you know what? Fuck what we were thinking, right? You kind of killed the ego and like, let's just go out and play. Let's do what we want to do.
I completely agree with that. I think that is I think that is probably accurate. I don't think that it was necessarily like ego driven, but I do think it was the preconceived notion of what we were.
Yeah.
And those two things are probably quite synonymous, when you
Yeah.
really break it
They
down.
definitely go hand in hand,
you
right?
know so yeah, that's a really good point. And plus, you just reach an age where you're like, I don't give a shit. Like, I just want to have a great time with my buddies and like link up once a week and play some riffs, and then go out to dinner after and spend some quality time together. That's I feel like in our older age, as opposed to when we were doing this at 17, 18, 19 years old. That's also a huge motivating factor. It's like we just want to have a great time. So
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
no
That
ego.
no egos, right? And you're doing it with your friends, which is that's what we all want to do. We want to
Yeah.
have fun with the people in our lives that we love. And who gives a shit what anyone else thinks? We're just going to do it.
Yeah, and being in a band together with your friends offers a deeper connection than if we were just going out. And it's almost like you take our friendships and we've added another dimension to it by also having this like really cool art project that has sustained almost the majority of our lives. It's
Yeah.
like it does add a really unique dynamic to us as people, which I value a lot, because not a lot of people have that. Not a lot of people can
Right.
say that. And even less people can say that it's sustained, coming up on decades. So
Yeah.
I really value that a lot.
Yeah. That's fucking awesome. God, that is really fucking awesome. Um, Seamus, this has been absolutely amazing. Uh,
Hell
I
yeah.
I love the conversation that we've had. I absolutely love the band. Um, I'm really excited to put it on my fucking record player and listen to it loud or to piss off my wife. Um,
That's great. Hopefully not
honestly,
too much.
nah, she'll be sitting right next to me. Like we'll chill on the couch down here, and the cat will be like she's sitting right here. The cat will be like, just love me, please. I'm like, all right. Um,
You're like, no,
so
I'm Goat Whore in Cannibal Corpse.
yes, and revocation and like, yeah, I got these are all over down here. It's like
Nice.
my little man cave.
I was gonna say it's proper man cave setup.
Yes. Yeah. So I know you got things to do tonight. I greatly appreciate you coming and taking time and talking to me about the band. I I'm super grateful that you came and chatted with me because like this conversation has like not the only one I haven't listened to is the EP in 21, and now I'm like, fuck, I gotta go listen to that now.
Hell yeah. Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate you being into the band, digging our new material, and beyond that, taking the time to to chat. So if we ever make it to Louisville, we'll definitely we'll grab a beer.
Hell yeah. Well, I don't drink, but I'll drink like a
Yep.
liquid death or something.
Just as
Um,
good.
yeah. Well, my cousin lives in Boston, so I might surprise you guys at one of your shows.
Nice. Hell yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to it, man.
Awesome, dude. We'll go and have a great night.
Thanks, you too. We'll talk to you later.
Thank you. Yep. See ya.